Hi everyone, and happy Crafttober. This is Sara Naumann with Create and Craft, and today I'm really excited to share with you a simple hand-decorated journal featuring the couture line of cutting dies. As we're celebrating crafting this autumn, I wanted to look ahead to the American holiday of Thanksgiving, which is in November. Now, while this is most often associated with lots of food and football and Black Friday, it's also traditionally a time that we get a chance to stop and acknowledge the things that we can be grateful for. And a really fun way to do this is with a gratitude journal like the one that you see here. And this is also a really fun and simple project that you can do quickly and easily in an afternoon. It's also something that you can do easily with the kids. So if you want to get them involved in thinking about all the things that they can be grateful for, as well as doing some crafting on a maybe a rainy afternoon, this would be a great project to do. So in this video, I wanted to go over a couple of different techniques. And the first is going to be this distressing that I've got going on the front cover here. The second is going to be how I layered up my couture cutting dies to create the focal. And then the third is a little tip that I wanted to share with you. A friend of mine gave me this tip on using double-sided tape to stick down your numbers and letters. It really does make it a lot easier. It's basically like using that double-sided tape to turn them into stickers. So I wanted to walk through that process with you as well. But first, let's get started with our background here. I'm going to move aside my cutting dies for now and also my journal. And I'm going to bring in my blank journal here. And this is one that I just picked up at my local stationery store. The nice thing about it is that it has a matte craft cardstock cover, which means that any wet medium that I put on the front here is going to be absorbed into this, and it's going to create a really cool distressed effect. So to do the wet medium, I need to, of course, have my inks here and some of my tools. So I've got two different kinds of ink. I have a dye ink. This is from Altenew. It's their permanent black. And then I also have a Zig marker, and this is the Clean Color Real brush from Kuretake. This is in black as well. Also from Kuretake, I have a water brush that I'm going to use as my applicator. You can probably see underneath here too my Rare Earth Load and Fold, and this is not going to be used for stamping this time. Instead, I'm using it as my palette. So you can use it for stamping, but you can also use it for lots of other things. And I also have a little mister bottle here with some water in it too. So I'm going to keep my, my journal here on my craft sheet, and I'm just going to take my marker and scribble some color on here. Again, using this as my palette, and I'm going to spritz this with some water, make a nice watery mess here, pick up that watery ink with my water brush, and then I'm going to hold this perpendicular over my journal and just tap the barrel with my hand. And this is going to help me get some really cool spatters on the front. I think you can see those already starting to come up. Now, all of my spatters are sort of going in this direction, so what I always recommend is that when you're doing something like this, you may want to turn your surface periodically, or yourself too can do that, just so that you have a bit more random overall pattern effect. Now this is already starting to dry. To clean off my load and fold, just take a baby wipe or a paper towel or something, and you can clean that off pretty quickly and easily. So I'm going to set this aside, and then what I can do is get my other ink pad, and that's going to be used to edge around the outside. So again, this is the Altenew Crisp Dye Ink. You can do this process with a pigment ink if you want to. That's going to take a little bit longer to dry. You may want to heat set that if you're using a pigment ink. I like a dye-based ink because it dries really quickly. So what I'm going to do, just take the ink pad itself and run it along all four sides of the journal cover. So hold the cover, that way you're not going to get ink on any of the pages by accident. And then just sort of scuffle that black ink around the sides. Now you can be quite heavy-handed if you want a really distressed look, or a little bit more restrained if you want just a bit of edging on here. So either way is totally fine. I think it just gives a really nice background for our cutting dies. So now that this is almost dry, what I can do is show you the dies that I'm working with. First, I'm going to show you the original journal here too. So you can see I've got a nice big focal element on here, and I have some smaller layers here too. All of the dies I'm working with are the Couture collection from Create and Craft. So you can see that I've got lots of different collections in here. This is all the by invitation only collection. So you've got the champagne glasses. You also have the the headers on here, I'm going to be using the scalloped header and the plain header. And then you also have the nested frames, which I'm going to use a lot. Now, all of these come on a magnetic sheet, which means that you've got everything nested in here together. It's really easy to be able to store them, keep them, and find them when you want to use them again. So these are the dies that I'm going to be working with. And again, I'm going to show you the process of which that I'm layering these up. So this is the main focal element. These two are another layer. And then this one here is a layer as well. And then of course our letters going on the front. So let's take a look at the dies that we're using and how to put those together. For the bottom layer of my die cuts, I'm going to start with two really cool label shapes. So I have a really intricate label and I have a simpler frame label. Now this is meant to interact with this one, and of course you can see that they are meant to nest in one another. Now what I've done with this is I've cut out a simple label from the black and then a more intricate label from the orange. And I wanted to have the two of these going across, but of course it's a little bit too wide on this one, and I also wanted to have the black underneath the orange, but of course that's a little bit lengthy as well. So what I've done in this case is simply cut them down, cut each one in half. And then what I can do is kind of position these on here. So I have my black label. Then I'm going to take half of the orange, kind of position this on here, and the other half of the orange and place this like so. Now, of course, you will be gluing this as you do it. I'm just going to be positioning them so that you can see that process of that. So this is the very bottom layer of my dies. Now, the next layer is going to be that really cool blue and black lace and kind of a silhouette effect. So for these, I'm using the dies that are the corner dies. So I've got an intricate one, and then I've got the frame. And I've got two sets of these, which means I can cut them all in one go, which is really nice. So I've got here my blue silhouette. I'm going to pop that down, one at the top and one at the bottom. And then I'm going to add my black sort of lace effect on here as well. So I've got these top and bottom. There's something going on side to side. So again, I'm just going to position this on here so you can start to see where this is building up. Now, of course, the main focal area that I have on here is that beautiful, large, lacy image with my grateful. Well, this is two portions. This is a large scallop, which I'm just going to cut from orange and position that on there. And then I have the beautiful frame that goes with it, and that's just going to nest right on top. So now you can see where I've got my sides, I've got the top and the bottom, and I have my focal element on there as well. Now I'm going to put the two of these together so that you can see how the process is coming. Of course, the only thing I'm missing now are my letters and my numbers on here. And I'm going to talk about my little tip on how to get those letters and numbers glued on in a way that is not going to frustrate you. This is a tip I learned from my friend Nina, and I'm always grateful to her for sharing this. So I'm going to bring in my cardstock and then my letters and numbers here to spell out the word grateful. And I spelled it with an 8 just because I couldn't fit the entire word grateful onto the front of my journal. So depending on the size of your journal, you may be able to squeeze it in. So Nina's tip for me was before you cut out your letters and numbers, cut down your piece of cardstock, flip it over and add some double-sided tape on here. And this is just a standard kind of white double-sided tape. Leave the liner on here, flip it back over, and put all of your letters and numbers on here. Just fit them in however you can because you're trying to conserve space, of course, and save your cardstock. So you just nest these all on here and then run this through your die cutting machine. After you have that all die cut out, you're going to have something, when all of your letters and numbers come out, you're going to have something that looks like this. And on the back, you can see the liner is still on here. When you pop these elements out, then you can take the liner off, and basically you have a sticker. And that just makes it so much easier to adhere everything on here. Now, one last little tip that I wanted to leave you with. As a big reader, I always believe that a book goes beautifully with a bookmark. So in this case, I also made a thanks bookmark to kind of mark my place in my gratitude journal. Now, in this case, I have not cut out the letters, but I have cut them from the negative of this cardstock. So I've taken the letters put them aside for another project, and then just use the negative of that black cardstock. The letters and numbers, by the way, are from the Artistry Collection Christmas Numbers and Letters collection. And I love this font. I think it works beautifully. But what I do for this, and let me show you how I've got that spelled out on here. So I've taken just a plain piece, again, of that cardstock, and I've aligned all of the letters on here. Now here you do want to make sure that you've got everything in the right order and how you want it positioned, if you want things to be lined up perfectly, or if you want them a little bit up and down. Either way is fine. And what I recommend you do then is, because this can shift in your die cutting process depending on the kind of machine you have, I take a little bit of washi tape or stencil tape, whatever kind of low tack tape you have on hand, and then just tack that down. Run this through your die cutting machine, and then it's going to be a lot easier to get it perfectly positioned, and you know that all of those letters and numbers are going to be in the right place. And then I've just added some baker's twine here with some staples, mounted it up onto some teal cardstock, and again a piece of craft cardstock, which I've edged with that same inking technique we talked about at the beginning of the video. So once again, let me bring in the journal here, and you can see this one more time. So this is how we're able to use our couture cutting dies to create a really fun and simple gratitude journal, perfect for Thanksgiving or probably any time of year. Thanks so much for joining me today, and I will catch you again on Create and Craft soon. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.